Yeah, thanks. Thanks again. It's truly been a pleasure to get to know you over the last few years, and the award is well deserved. Especially with context of COVID, it can't be understated how essential you've been for the work that we've been able to do at Chester. And so, to begin, would on behalf of the Prison Society, I would say thank you for all of that and making it happen. Um, Yeah, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the role you play at Chester, and what the RSO is and how you got there?
Sure thing. So my name is James Archer. I'm the reentry parole agent for SCI Chester. I've been in that position for a little over 3 years. And before I became a reentry parole agent, I was a juvenile probation officer for Chester County. I was out in Westchester, Downingtown, Exton, that whole area. And I was a sex offender specialist. So I was working primarily with young offenders who will commit sex crimes. Before that, I was a case manager for a diversion program out of West Philly. It was called the Bridge Intensive Prevention Services Program, or we call it the Bridge for short. And I did something very, very similar to what I'm doing now. I ran cognitive behavioral workshops and groups.
Mhm.
So I guess and that was right out of grad school or out of undergrad while in grad school. I had my master's in criminal justice from Westchester University. So I kind of been on this path, and everything that kind of has happened has felt like luck. Like I just kind of like lucked out.
Mhm.
But now, as a reentry parole agent out of SCI Chester, I manage the reentry service office, or it's better known as the RSO in Chester. And in the RSO, I provide cognitive behavioral groups, helping my clients or residents identify that link between their thoughts and perceptions and feelings and beliefs to their behavior. I also offer resources. So I meet with people to identify some of their needs, and provide them with those resources to help them when they transition out. And I also do transitional counseling. So identifying some of those behavioral influences, criminal influences, anything that they feel as though they can improve upon. I try to let the men know that there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing that is broken, but things that we can improve upon.
Yep.
So that's what I do at Chester.
Thank you. In your role, in what you've, as I understand how you built that office at Chester, and in terms of how you've shaped the work that you're doing, what do you feel like is the kind of the most critical entry point for guys that you're working with? What do you see most commonly in the terms of what you're able to give out of the RSO, where that meets the needs of guys who are getting ready to go home specifically?
What I find is a common theme among a lot of people that I work with is this idea of perception, and mainly the perception of manhood and masculinity. So a lot of the issues that we've been able to come to identify surround things like not being able to feeling as though they're not able to ask for help, feeling as though that they have to do things on their own, feeling as though that as a man they have to protect, provide, and all these social pressures, all these internal expectations really put a lot of the men into this position where they feel like fight or flight. And the fight that they put out is committing these crimes. So just trying to help shift that perspective, provide a better understanding of just human behavior in general, not behavior of men or behavior of women, but behavior of people, and helping the men understand that they are someone to be appreciated and valued. They are someone to reach out and ask for help, just as easily as they would help another, they should expect the same from their loved ones, their support system. So kind of like outlining that reciprocity and that give and take that's really, really essential when it comes to any relationship. But again, mainly just trying to get them out of this, what some people will call toxic masculinity, and help them better understand that to be a man does not mean to be alone. To be
Mhm.
a man means to be willing to ask for help and to reach out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that we find a lot of that in the conversations that we have as well. I mean, certainly you've overheard some of that, and I hear that a lot from the guys we sit with, kind of questioning that. Talk a little bit about how you utilize community partners like us, and I know that you have other, increasingly maybe since COVID, have other organizations that come in as you're organizing your month and putting things together and creating resources for the guys. How do you utilize community partners?
So no man is an island, and community partners are a vital point and aspect when it comes to the Reentry Service Office. So being able to identify those partners who are genuine and passionate, who are effective and responsive. Responsive is really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
And just connecting basically those two people who need each other, right? Connecting the client with the community partner. So when it comes to like identifying who to include in the RSO and who not, it's just those things I discussed, like effective, responsive, and passionate.
Yeah.
So prison society is definitely checks all those boxes. That's why I've been able to have you guys. That's why I've been appreciating having you guys in the RSO and in Chester for so long.
Yeah.
But trying to work with programs like Impact Services or Full Abundance or anything along those lines has been really, really important as well, because trying to spread resources, trying to not overwhelm one community partner, and recognizing that through a collaborative effort, we can really, really effectuate change.
Mm-hmm. So when I walk to and from the RSO with you, rarely is there a time that somebody's not calling out from down the hallway or from the mezzanine or from down below, or you're clearly held in very high regard among the guys at Chester. Why do you think that is?
The way I approach the guys I work with is to first identify my biases. So as people, we all have biases. Once I recognize where my biases lie, I can then actively work against those biases. And what I try to do is I try to do for others as I would want done for myself. Because all it takes is a bad traffic stop, mm-hmm, or being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I could be somebody's cellmate. So just recognizing how fragile that circumstance is and trying to do for someone what I would want done for myself. So I always go above and beyond. I recognize and I see the humanity and the compassion in these men. And a lot of people say I go above and beyond, but honestly, it's just doing what's necessary, doing what's required, right? And what I've come to find is that a lot of the men come to me because they've gone to other people and haven't gotten a decent result. And again, the frustration and the panic that comes in that environment can really, really be stifling. So just recognizing that and trying to be more of an aid than a hindrance. Mm-hmm. That's why I move the way I move in Chester. And I think I recognize that the men appreciate it a lot. And I don't make promises, but I always tell my guys that I will do what I can, and I try to follow through. I try to be a man of my word, and I think they recognize that.
Yeah, it's certainly clear to me that they do. It's fun to see, to be quite honest. If you had it your way, what would the RSO be 5 years from now? What would you dream about for that office and your role in terms of seeing the areas for growth or the areas for expansion? And second part of that question, is there any way for the prison society to help you get there?
5 years from now, the RSO. I like where it is currently. I would love to see. So you've noticed that smart board we have in the back of the room that's just furniture. I would love to utilize that a little bit more. But maybe some up-to-date computers, more effective and accessible websites for the computer lab, a better whiteboard, new tables, new chairs, some soundproof, like having those noise dampening styrofoam, whatever hanging from the ceiling would be really, really decent because there's an echo in the RSO. But just having it be recognized as a place to get aid, to be so well known now in Chester that all the men, once they're able to seek out, are actively engaged and are successful through the RSO. I know the prison is not the biggest. Chester, I think, is one of the smaller prisons, but there are still some men who are unfamiliar or unaware of the RSO and what we do. So just to kind of like build up that image and get more men aware of the resources we have, and to systematically have those resources just easily accessible. So I think that's something that I would love to see within the next 5 years.
That's great. Yeah, well, thank you. This has been great. Working with you over the last few years has been great. Looking forward to starting up our next cohort at the end of August. And I think a little bit like you, we're always tinkering and tweaking and trying to figure out how to be most effective. And we really appreciate having you as a partner in that. Sometimes I tell people it feels like we have a prison society employee on the inside with you because of the work you do to get our group set up. And so thank you for that. And yeah, Correctional Employee of the Year, well deserved. Thank you for all that you do. It clearly is appreciated by the lives you touch, and by the people you interact with. I hear that inside conversations with the guys when we have them, and it's easy to see when we're with you in the facility. So thank you and congrats.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It is an honor. And when I misread your email the first time, I was like, "Oh, Andy's getting the award." But then you told me, and it made my day. I'm so appreciative. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you, Mr. Archer.
I'm gonna see you on the 22nd.
Yes, we're on.
All right. All right. See you then.
All right. Have a great day. See ya.
You too.